Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. I'll tell you what, a lot has happened since we did the weekend update.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, you know, we talked on the weekend update about the new special counsel that was announced by Merrick Garland, which is getting a lot of talk in the media because, well, it's obvious why they did it.
But they're
ahead.
trying to say, oh, the Republicans got to like this, a Trump appointee and all that. Yeah, we saw what he did for Hunter with the sweetheart deal. And, actually, they screwed that up. It was a sweetheart deal that they screwed up, and the judge sat there and said, this balloon don't fly. And so it fell apart on him. So, this is just
Well, David Weiss is the guy who was the U.S. attorney in Delaware who put together the most ridiculous deal. It was such a dumb deal that when they brought it to the judge threw it out. This is ridiculous. This was a deal that was approved by the prosecution and the defense, right? They came together. It was a terrible deal, but everybody agreed to it. They brought it to the judge, and the judge says, not in my courtroom, and gone. That's it. So you would think that would be the end of David Weiss. But what happens with Merrick Garland and his corrupt DOJ is they say, well, I think we'll make him a special counsel. What's interesting about this, and nobody's talking about this, Bill, is that special counsels, by law, are not supposed to be government employees. They're not supposed to come from the government. They're supposed to come from outside of government. David Weiss is a government employee. Therefore, what he's doing is illegal. Illegal. He doesn't have the qualifications to be a special counsel by law.
Yeah, But, the only body that could do anything about that I think that could do anything about it would be the Supreme Court. Just like Biden overriding the law and the Supreme Court on the student loan forgiveness. The hell with it. I'm doing it anyway. It's against the law. I'm breaking it. Well, who is on recess right now and not due to come back until October?
The Congress. In the Supreme Court. I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, so you know what? You can break any damn law you want to. They can sit there on their, vacation hammock and wherever, the world they are, and go, we gotta attend to that. Well, that'll be late October before we get to it and rule on it. It's done. The deal
By the way,
done.
Congress comes back in September. You're right. Supreme Court in October.
Yeah.
I don't know, Bill. There's two sets of laws in this country right now. There's two different judicial systems. There's one for the common man, and then there's one for the elites. I mean, the mere fact that we have a special counsel now, let's think about what that does. That gives the administration somebody who can run interference for Hunter and for Joe. Joe more than Hunter, because Hunter was nothing more than a bag man for Joe.
But you got to realize something. Joe, as bad as he is and as bad as his history is, going way back into the 80s and before, the simple fact is he is embedded. When you talk about the big guy, he is a criminal. And he has become the godfather of the D.C. crime organization. Let's call it what it is. It is a syndicate. It is a crime organization. And he is the big guy, maybe along with Barack, who walked in. But Joe is the guy. He did illegal things before he was vice president, during the vice presidency. He really ran away with it. Now, there are some people saying, well, when he realized he wasn't going to be president, he decided to, take the governor off the crime machine and get all this money coming in. Oops, he's in the office now. I don't think he gives a damn, because he has got so many people.
Well, what you don't know, Bill,
what
you don't know is whether he's still collecting money.
He is. I mean, you look at Merrick Garland and his buddy there from going back to the pandemic stuff. What was that clown's name?
Fauci?
Fauci and Dr. Collins. They've gotten over 60 royalty payments, not only from Big Pharma, but from Chinese and Russian entities. Boy, doesn't that make you feel good? You got all them damn shots. There was an agenda to it.
I know. It's funny. You mentioned Biden. Yesterday, he spent the day on the beach, soaking up the sun, catching the rays while Maui burned to the ground. And you would have thought if he was an active, honest president who cared, he would have been in the Oval Office or maybe even on an airplane to Hawaii to talk to the people who were suffering.
No, they're not going to do that. No.
Yeah, well,
Kamala sat there and said, we don't want to take the focus off of them because us being there would be a distraction.
Nonsense.
Give me a frickin' break. I mean, look, I don't want to put down a Republican, but I'm just going to say Kamala is the Democratic equivalent to, what was that guy's
Dan Quayle?
name? Dan Quayle. That was exactly that guy I was thinking of. She is the Democratic Dan Quayle.
I think Dan Quayle was sharper myself, but that's my own humble opinion.
No, he was. He made a mistake in,
potato and potatoes. Yes,
you say potato, I say potato. Hey, you know what? I misspell every damn word there is. And then I get the,
he was a smart guy. People don't know that. He was, before he was vice president and before the media could pick on him and make him their piñata, he was a senator from, I think, Indiana, and he was very successful.
Well, to give credit to her due, I mean, Kamala was a smart gal, a real smart ass.
Yeah, I don't think. I think she manipulated a lot of people and maneuvered her way into maneuvered is an interesting way of describing it.
Saying, that's why I was saying she was a smart ass. What she is.
Hey,
she's not a smart girl.
Merrick Garland. Here's what he said when he made the announcement on Friday about the Special Counsel.
With the Department of Justice regulations governing such matters. In keeping with those regulations, I have today notified the designated members of each House of Congress of the appointment. In February 2018, after being nominated by the former president and confirmed by the Senate, Mr. Weiss was sworn in as the United States Attorney for the District of Delaware. Mr. Weiss had been a career prosecutor, having served previously in the office for more than a decade. Beginning in 2019, Mr. Weiss, in his capacity as U.S. Attorney and along with federal law enforcement partners, began investigating allegations of certain criminal conduct by, among others, Robert Hunter Biden. That investigation has been recently referenced in federal criminal proceedings in the District of Delaware, and as noted in those proceedings and other public statements by Mr. Weiss's office, that investigation remains ongoing. In February 2021, U.S. Attorney Weiss was asked to remain as U.S. Attorney for the District of Delaware and, in that capacity, to continue to lead the investigation. As I said before, Mr. Weiss would be permitted to continue his investigation, take any investigative steps he wanted, and make the decision whether to prosecute in any district. Mr. Weiss has told Congress that he has been granted ultimate authority over this matter, including the responsibility for deciding where, when, and whether to file charges, and for making decisions necessary to preserve the integrity of any prosecution consistent with federal law, the principles of federal prosecution, and departmental policies. In a July 2023 letter to Congress, Mr. Weiss said that he had not to that point requested special counsel designation. On Tuesday of this week, Mr. Weiss advised me that in his judgment, his investigation had reached a stage at which he should continue his work as a special counsel, and he asked to be so appointed. Upon considering his request, as well as the extraordinary circumstances relating to this matter, I have concluded that it is in the public interest to appoint him as special counsel. This appointment confirms my commitment to provide Mr. Weiss all the resources he requests. It also reaffirms that Mr. Weiss has the authority he needs to conduct a thorough investigation and to continue to take the steps he deems appropriate independently, based only on the facts and the law. Mr. Weiss will also continue to serve as U.S. Attorney for the District of Delaware. As Special Counsel, he will continue to have the authority and responsibility that he has previously exercised to oversee the investigation and decide where, when, and whether to file charges.
And then he turned around and walked off the stage without taking any questions. Again, a reminder, this U.S. attorney in Delaware is an employee of the federal government. By law, he's not supposed to be the special counsel. But it's being ignored here. Can you imagine the bullet we dodged by not approving this guy, Merrick Garland, as a Supreme Court justice? He was nominated to be a Supreme Court justice, and they didn't pass him through Congress. He didn't meet the qualifications. This guy is obviously so manipulated and so controlled by the administration. Can you imagine how controlled he would have been had he been a Supreme Court justice?
Yeah, and the contacts and power he would have wielded to go in there and carve out changes within the justice office. He could have done more damage inside of that office
for life. Yeah. It's a lifetime appointment. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's
we dodged one there.
We dodged one, but did we dodge one? Now with Weiss going on and doing things the other way, the only thing that I can think of is that, he's illegitimate. But we got an illegitimate president, and they're sitting there, they're touting him as the guy, and yet there's proof now in Michigan that there was exact voter fraud. Oh, you're an election denier by saying that. No, I'm not. I'm actually saying finally something came out, and they're talking about down in Georgia. Well, we got text and messages, and they were trying to get into the voting machines. Well, how the hell else are you going to prove the fraud unless you dig inside?
This whole thing in Georgia, it's just another distraction. It's another distraction.
There's
they literally
a lot of distractions.
Well, it's like you said the other day. She's going after Trump for trying to ask for how many votes? 11,000.
11,780 votes. If memory,
around that. Let's say 12,000 for government work. But I mean, this is ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous. Every single indictment is ridiculous.
Let me put it in this is not a bad word, just so you know, but let me just put it in terms that anybody can understand. If you believe the election was legitimate, go back and remember all of Biden's campaign speeches, all the footage that you've seen of his campaign rallies, which had maybe old records of 2 or 3 people at.
Yeah, right.
And anything you've driven by, the mere fact that they say he won is the equivalent of seeing a pissant eat a bale of hay.
Well, I don't really know what the heck that means, but I kind of got an idea.
A pissant is those little red ants,
sugar ant.
That you sugar ant.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay.
They're called a pissant.
Okay.
And you can look it up. I mean,
well, not where I come from. You come from a rougher neighborhood than me.
No, I mean it's a pretty common phrase, but
I have to tell you, I think that we are being played right now as a country. I mean, this guy comes out on Friday. By the way, it was Friday, it wasn't Thursday. The media is going to bed Friday afternoon. They're taking nappy naps over the weekend. They don't really pay attention to what's going on. Nah, they don't. They really
pay
don't.
Attention to what they've been told to pay attention to. The papers for Biden's impeachment. They were ready before the weekend, and the word was out, but there was nothing on it. And really, there was nothing throughout the weekend. Maybe a little bit in Fox here and there, and there's a few.
We have a war going on in the Ukraine over the weekend, and they do nothing. Nothing. We have the border. My God, they had a record number of people who were stopped at the border this past month, and this media does nothing. Nothing at all. So
they won't.
Yeah, they are a waste of time and space. But by the way, getting back to the special counsel, think of it this way: we had the Durham report, right? Oh, my God, we waited around for the Durham report for over 3 years. Everybody was on pins and needles, and after a while, we kind of all fell asleep because it was taking so darn long. All this guy has to do is run out the clock. All he has to do is keep stonewalling all of the testimony and the witnesses and all of the facts about this Biden family crime. And if he can do that and get Joe elected again, then he's done his job. And you may say, well, wait a second, isn't Weiss a Republican? Friends, come on. You've heard of rhinos. You've heard of Republican in name only. It does exist, all right? I mean, there are different types of loyalists out there, and he's not one, okay? This guy Weiss isn't one. He's playing for their side. So
Yeah, and running out the clock is exactly what they want to do. And you're going, yeah, but the American public is still going to vote. Well, they voted the last time, and they didn't vote for Biden, but he won because the fix is in. It has been. Again, going back to Michigan, and just last week, and the DA confirmed. Yeah, we got, actually, it was over 20,000. But
and you know what it means?
We got about
it means
10,000
nothing
votes
now.
that were illegal.
It means nothing. Nothing.
But the mainstream news did not want to sit there and address it, because if they address it, then they have to sit there and follow up and acknowledge it, and they don't want to do that. Now, they are trying to say that the reason that they focus on the news they do and refocus on Trump, it's about ratings. Yeah, well, you don't have ratings, so don't tell me that lie.
All right, this movie that was out about a year ago, 2,000 Mules, that got absolutely no play anywhere. As a matter of fact, there were social media sites that tried to pull it. They didn't want you to see it. But if you took the same thing, made a movie that was pro-Biden, pro-election, if they, quote, proved that the election was honest, do you think it would have had the same response from the media? They would have been touting it. They would have been promoting it. They would have been pointing to it. That's the situation we're living in right now. There's no balance anymore. Fox used to have the slogan fair and balanced. Media is supposed to be fair and balanced. After being in the business for all these years, I can tell you as a matter of fact that the news media and broadcasting today is not the same and doesn't work by the same standards that the news media and broadcasting worked in the 70s and 80s and even 90s, okay? I mean, they had more standards to work by. Even I knew guys who were, in their personal life, very liberal, very woke for their time, but when they got in front of the microphone, when they got on the camera, they didn't show any partiality towards any different party. They really fought to maintain an appearance of neutrality. And I don't see that anymore. I see these guys getting on camera and these ladies getting on camera, and you know how they feel. I mean, we're talking about anchors. I'm not talking about, people who are contributors and have an opinion. I'm talking about the anchors who are supposed to be neutral. But anyway, a lot of things happening. Ted Cruz was on with Maria Bartiromo.
Oh, that was
yesterday.
A great piece, too.
Yeah, I got it, and it's in 2 segments. He talks about this special counsel and what he thinks about it.
Your reaction to David Weiss being named as special counsel here?
Well, this appointment is camouflage and it's cover-up. I think it's disgraceful. Listen, David Weiss was the U.S. attorney handpicked to lead this investigation, who spent the last 5 years covering it up. David Weiss, who was personally selected by the 2 Democrat senators from Delaware, Tom Carper and Chris Coons. For 5 years, the investigation has gone nowhere other than to protect Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. Not only that, David Weiss is the one that is subject to 2 whistleblower complaints from senior career IRS officials who came forward. They said they'd never seen an investigation like this in their entire time in law enforcement. They said that the Department of Justice, lawyers working for David Weiss, protected the Biden family, that they gave heads up to Hunter Biden before search warrants were executed, presumably so that he could hide incriminating evidence, that they refused to allow them to ask any questions at all about the big guy, about Joe Biden, that they were focused on, you cannot inquire into President Joe Biden's personal corruption. And the result of all of that is that David Weiss either was an active participant in covering up this criminality and protecting Joe Biden, in engaging in obstruction of justice. That's option one. Or option two, he wasn't the driver, he was just complicit. He was so weak that he couldn't stop the partisans in Main Justice from turning it into a political effort to protect Joe Biden. Either case, he is a wildly inappropriate person to be a special counsel. We should have a special counsel, but number one, we should have a special counsel to investigate Merrick Garland for whether he lied under oath to Congress in response to questioning from me, number one, and whether he committed obstruction of justice. Those are both the allegations that came from the whistleblowers. And number two, we need a whistleblower not to go back and bury what Hunter Biden did, which is what David Weiss has been doing for 5 years. We need a special counsel to investigate Joe Biden and the $20 million that his family received while he was vice president. The allegation now is for official favors that he was selling. That is bribery. It's not a little gun charge on Hunter. It is bribery of the president of the United States is what these allegations are. And this special counsel, he ain't going to do anything to get to the bottom of that.
You know, I got to tell you, I like Ted Cruz and I like a lot of these different politicians, but I'm getting a little tired of just the rhetoric, just the constant talk. I mean, at some point, I think the public wants to see some action. I mean, we all know that this is the case, that there is corruption here, there's interference. We all know this. So at what point do the politicians put down their rhetoric and go out there and start to, prosecute, start to bring people to justice? You know, one of the things they were saying over the weekend, Bill, is the special counsel is going to thwart and interfere with the performance of the investigations in Congress. But, right now, as it stands right now, today, they got enough. They don't need any more testimony. They don't need any more witnesses. They've got page after page after page of documentation that they've already collected. It's already done. They don't have to have anybody else come in and testify. Enough.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know the impeachment articles are there. It's been put forth, but I think in the case of Ted Cruz, he is very articulate with words. He's very dead on with everything. But can he do it by himself? The Republicans have got to get together in a uniform fashion, do stuff, or the only thing you can do is sit there and cry it out. And when it all falls apart, I was trying to tell you that we needed to do something, but you didn't want to do anything. Well, Bill, that's the only thing that he can do.
The Democrats, they march in lockstep. You got to give them credit, even if they disagree with each other. When the time comes for them to either vote,
Republicans won't do that.
Oh my God, it's like herding cats.
No, they're not going to get into the fight that they have to get into to get the job done. Yep. Now, even if they impeach, look, what Biden is up against with the impeachment is far worse than any crime that we've ever seen by any president.
You're right.
Anytime, anywhere. This is major. We don't have the Senate. So if he gets impeached, and that's the excuse. Well, if he gets impeached, Senate's not going to go for it. Well, we don't know it until we throw it out there. But when we throw it out there, everybody's going to know. And so when he gets impeached and they overturn it, then we know.
That's
true. Either way, he is going to have the scarlet letter on his forehead. I'm a frickin' crook. And that's what we need. We need to put that rubber stamp up there for people to see.
I was watching an interview on the weekend, and it was a man on the street type thing. And it's really sad to see how many people, the average Joe, just think that the special counsel is a good thing. They think that this guy will do something now. Oh, we finally got a special counsel. Now maybe we'll get some action.
Well, was it a Democrat that thought that? Because it's
no. These are just people on the street, and I gotta think that I understand why. I understand why they feel that way, because they're not paying attention like you and I are. People, for the most part, are doing their job, going about their lives, trying to pay bills, trying to do the next thing that has to be done to put food on the table, and so they kind of hear with one ear what's happening in the media, what's happening in politics. So when they hear, oh, there's a special counsel against Biden, oh, that's important, just like the Mueller, oh, well, that's fantastic. They don't realize that it's exactly what the administration wanted. It's there to run interference.
Well, there's a lot of interference. You ever sit at a bar and somebody's got 3 shells or 3 cups? I'm going to put a quarter under this cup. Now keep your eye on the cups and tell me where that quarter is. Well, a lot of times things in the news cycle are that way, and it is hard. There are so many news stories that kind of come to the surface and go away real quick, but they're major stories that we need to keep up with. Case in point, we were touting the thing about that lost 60 tons of ammonium nitrate,
right?
Which is
still out there. Exactly.
It's a major story. So there's our little reminder that. Yeah, there's enough nitrate there to take a city off the map.
Sure.
And then
people right now, Bill, are listening to us and saying, "Wait, what's he talking about?" It has been so long since that was stolen that people have forgotten about it.
You didn't even know about it until I said, there was a train.
That's true. Well, I mean, the media did nothing.
No.
Think about it, folks. Ammonium nitrate. They used a much smaller amount to destroy the Mueller building in Oklahoma City.
Mueller or something like that.
Mueller building, yeah, right. Yeah. In Oklahoma City. We're talking about if they took 60 tons from that train, I think they used like 2 tons to bring down the building at Oklahoma
Probably
City.
Not even that, because it was not.
It was in a U-Haul. It was in a U-Haul van. Yeah.
Yeah, the U-Haul van was just the vehicle, and it was a barrel, and the chemicals that go with it. And it's not much. There's stuff that guys sit there. You see it on YouTube all the time. I forget what it's called. It's a chemical that just sits there. But when you hit it with something at a high impact, it blows up and makes a big boom. And,
ammonium nitrate is a fertilizer.
It's the basis for a lot of munitions.
Yeah.
Because they do make it agricultural grade, which is still explosive,
right?
Mishandled, and then they make it into a military grade. This just happened to be in the military grade, and it just went.
And then they tried to explain that there was a hole in the bottom of a tanker car, and that it leaked on the rails, and the whole tanker car drained as the train was. Now, all they would have had to have done is walk the tracks, and they would have seen if it was there.
All they would have had to have done, let's just say the ammonium nitrate was in a tanker car that was in the middle of the train. And you got the wheels of the train, which weigh hundreds of tons, going over the track, creating friction and heat, and anything that could ignite that little trail back up to the train.
Yeah, that's true. Just a little friction might have set it off. But no, folks, they lost 60 tons of ammonium nitrate.
They lied.
And they haven't found it, okay? And so they've just let it go away.
I don't think they lost it. I think somebody took it, and that was their cover-up, and they had to find a way to hide the story. And then when it comes out, they got a way to cover up the story again and exonerate themselves.
You know what? I cannot figure, Bill, how so many people can be blind to the bad things that this administration has done. The border, it's ridiculous. By the way,
They want another $3.3 billion for the immigrants.
They want to build houses on the border. They want to build like homes for the people on the border, temporary homes.
What about, we got our homeless people that may not be able to be rehabilitated to where they can sit there and go back and work, because there's a lot of different things there. But don't we need to take care of our own before we sit there and import all these people?
Oh, that horse has left the barn. I mean, we have, 15 million people in this country who we don't know who they are and where they came from?
It just seems like we want to take this country down to be a third world place.
And think about this, Bill. That's as big as New York City.
Yeah.
The population in New York City. I mean, we have all these strangers in town. Now, guys like Eric Adams are saying, well, we haven't got any more room. We're all full up. You have to send them someplace else. How about Erie, Pennsylvania? That's good. Send them there. And Erie's saying, well, we don't want them. I mean, we're a Democratic-run city, but we're full up here, too. We don't want. I mean, these are the sanctuary cities that have, before all this happened.
The church is full. Yeah, the church is full.
Yeah, they bragged about, we're a sanctuary city. We're welcoming to everybody. And now it's like, whoa, close that door.
But you know what these sanctuary cities are doing? Yeah, they're closing the door and saying, well, we have no more room at the end, but now we need federal dollars. We need it for this. We need it for that.
Oh, yeah. Do you know how much Eric Adams asked for?
I don't even want to know.
I think the figure was, and if I'm off, I'm not off by much. He asked the federal government for $12 billion with the B dollars. $12 billion.
Do you think it would go to the homeless?
No. Eric, he's not as dumb as he looks. Trust me. I mean, or maybe he is. But $12 billion. People were saying, wait a second. $12 billion. Does he think we're in a situation like the Ukraine? Where $12 billion? I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, I think they said that the budget for the city of Erie was like $2 million for the whole city, for their streets and all of their day-to-day operation. And Eric Adams is trying to tell the federal government that he needs $12 billion. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, look, this is all about money and profit. That's what these illegal aliens are for. Well, you know what? We want to make money by not our hard work and efforts, but by creating a need or a want or a problem. In other words, something that they can ask for money and make money off of the sweat of your back. And that's what they're doing. Now they've created this need that, it's a problem. You have all these people there. Well, we need money to fix this, but they're not going to fix the problem.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't fix it. Wasn't enough money. No, you just created a scheme to get rich. I'll tell you about one in a little while, but, I saw somebody make $260,000 in 30 minutes, and they did absolutely nothing for it.
They're in politics, obviously.
No.
$260,000?
It was like a 16-year-old kid that made $260,000. All he did is he went live stream on a YouTube channel, and he said, I'm going to hold my breath. Didn't say for how long or anything. I'm going to hold my breath when I make $260,000.
And he held his breath?
No, he didn't hold it for the time the money was ticking. He said, I'm not going to do it unless I hit that. And he got over $260,000. And then...
Yeah, well, God bless people out there. I guess they have more money than brains. Anyway, I got to play.
He didn't even hold it for 30 seconds.
I got to play part 2 of Ted Cruz. He wasn't done talking about the situation with the Biden family. Listen.
Well, James Comer put out a statement. He writes this move by AG Garland is part of the Justice Department's efforts to attempt a Biden family cover-up in light of the GOP oversight's mounting evidence of President Biden's role in his family's scheme selling the brand for millions of dollars to foreign nationals. I want to go through some of these latest allegations and these new bank records with you, Senator, because you are a constitutional expert. So it begs the question, question, what is Congress going to do about this? Okay, who has the upper hand from your standpoint in terms of the Constitution? Is it the special counsel, David Weiss, who may very well be able to freeze all information flow to Congress? Or is it the congressional lawmakers and the congressional investigators who have unearthed all of this evidence?
Well, look, it's both. And under a constitutional system, we have checks and balances. We expect the executive and the legislature to wrestle with each other. But the executive has an advantage in that it is only the executive, is only the Department of Justice that can convene a grand jury. It is only the executive that can bring an indictment. It is only the executive that can prosecute, which means as long as the Biden Department of Justice remains a partisan political apparatus, they will not prosecute Joe Biden. They will not prosecute Hunter Biden for serious offenses. They will not prosecute Merrick Garland for serious offenses. And Congress doesn't have the ability to do that. Now, Congress has its own authority, and I believe the only progress we're going to see over the next year and a half on this corruption is going to come from Congress. It's going to come from the House of Representatives, James Comer and Jim Jordan, both of whom are doing a phenomenal job. They have subpoena power. They're using it. They'll continue to use it. But Maria, pause and look at what the House has uncovered already.
Yeah.
James Comer has released bank records that show that the Biden family and their associates received over $20 million from Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan while Joe Biden was vice president. That's one point that is really important not to miss. This isn't over their entire career. This is while Daddy was VP, $20 million. Any reporter who gives a flip about doing his or her job ought to be asking the president at every stage, what did your family do to earn $20 million while you were vice president during those 8 years? Number two, lots of Democrats in defending Biden, they keep using reference to influence peddling or access. That's not what these allegations are. Influence peddling and access happens a lot in Washington. There are a gazillion Washington lobbyists on K Street. That's not what the allegations are here. The allegations are that Hunter was selling official favors from Daddy when he was vice president of the United States. If you look at the FD 1023, the allegation there is the oligarch who owned Burisma spent $10 million, $5 million to Joe Biden, $5 million to Hunter Biden in exchange for getting Joe Biden to fire the prosecutor who was prosecuting that corrupt oligarch. We know the second half of the quid pro quo happened. Joe Biden has admitted he got that prosecutor fired. The allegation is he was bribed to do it. And number three, it's important to understand, this is often discussed as Hunter's business dealings. This was not Hunter's business dealings. This was Joe Biden's business. Hunter has no marketable skills. No one on planet Earth would pay him $20 million to do anything. What Hunter was selling was Daddy. This was Joe Biden's business, shaking down, mind you, not shaking down our friends, not shaking down France or England or Italy, but shaking down corrupt oligarchs in communist China to the tune of over $20 million. Hunter was the salesman, but the product was Joe Biden's personal favors, and that is, if true, corruption at the very highest level of government.
And understand something, these countries knew that they were dealing with, on a personal basis, a guy who had a drug problem, a guy who was in the throes of all these different demons. And they knew what Hunter Biden was. They had, and darn well they got video, they've got audio. These are countries that have very sophisticated intelligence operations. They know exactly who they're dealing with. So right now they have the president of the United States by the cojones. They got him. They got him, and he will do their bidding. I mean, do you think that it's a coincidence we keep throwing money at the Ukraine? I think the Ukraine says, oh, hey, listen, you better give us more money or the world's going to know about you and your dealings over here.
Well, you got to wonder, what exactly were the dealings? I mean, I know what we've talked about, but does it go deeper? Did he sell? We talked about those two kids that were caught selling secrets, military secrets. Did Joe ever do stuff like that? I mean, if he's sold other stuff and he's sold out things and he's been doing things for years, has he sold out government secrets?
Well, the thing that gets me about Joe is that people don't realize this, but the young Joe Biden was in favor of a lot of the things that he supposedly supports now. I mean, the young Joe Biden was a friend of Senator Byrd, who was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Now,
he's a racist.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now the Joe Biden you see today talks about how he's always been a champion of civil rights. Who are you kidding?
He's a liar.
The guy is a liar. The guy.
But why does the media lie for him? Because he gets caught in these lies. He'll say things that are sexist, racist, and then they kind of dismiss it and cover it up. And why are you doing this? Because that makes you complacent to where you're a racist and a.
No, it's because there's an agenda right now. The agenda is, a leftist agenda, and the media supports that story. And, if in order to sell that, they've got to dismiss and forget about all of the bad things, all of the obviously wrong things that this guy did. They've got to say, well, wait a second. We want to succeed in our, with our goals now. So let's forget about what he did in 1988 or 1980. I mean, this guy, think about it, what he did to Clarence Thomas when Clarence Thomas was having all those difficulties. Remember with the hair on the Coke can? And
the pubic hair. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was a real thing. Clarence Thomas didn't do anything wrong, but Joe Biden tried desperately to make the world think that he did. Joe Biden is corrupt, and he was corrupt then, and he's corrupt now.
They took Clarence Thomas from the beginning, and they vilified him, and they made him a foul character. And you know what? Back then, you could be a little bit more harsh with racism and throw it out there. And they basically, did everything but call him the N-word. And they had,
and the media didn't call him on it. Now, if Trump had done something like that, they would have gone ballistic. But when someone on the left does that, it's like, well, just let it go. Ignore it. It's no big deal.
Well, it is a big deal, but they dismiss everything, and that makes me so mad that they do it all the time.
I know. This judge, Tanya Chutkan, they had a hearing on Friday, and she physically demonstrated her exasperation with President Trump's attorney during oral arguments. And, I'll let him explain what happened.
Very quickly, Hugo, before we go to a break, I wanted to ask you, tell us about body language. A lot of us cannot be there, right? We can't be in court. There are no cameras in the court. What was kind of the body language between Judge Chutkan and Trump and his defense counsel?
I think, the judge was sympathetic to some of the Trump lawyers' kind of arguments. They were making the case that, being a defense lawyer is difficult, especially with a client like Trump. And I think she kind of accepted that she has a defense background herself. But at other times, I think she kind of grew exasperated by all the discussions about politics. At one point, she kind of put her face in her hands. She kind of rolled her eyes when, there was another discussion about, the Biden administration coming after Trump. So I think, and I think John Lauro, Trump's lawyer, picked up on that a little bit, and he shifted course throughout the hearings. So clearly that was something that he saw was going to be a loser and changed tack.
That's Guardian reporter Hugo Lowell, who was in the courtroom and giving us a little background on what she was doing. This rolling the eyes, people forget, by the way, that this Tanya Chutkan was a co-worker of Hunter Biden in a law firm in Washington, D.C. I mean, the first thing that this lady should have done
was recuse herself.
Thank you very much. Exactly right.
Yeah, because I mean, in any court of law anywhere, I'm sorry, that duck don't hunt. I mean, that dog don't hunt.
And the duck doesn't do any hunting either.
The duck does. No, the duck runs.
But this is a planned setup. This whole thing is a setup. I mean, every aspect of this is a setup. Even the fact that the Congress is doing all of these hearings and nothing's coming out of it. I mean, enough.
But if we don't call it for what it is on the front end, it doesn't mean that anything's going to happen. If we sat there and said, you know what, she should have recused herself because of this, and this, and keep saying it over and over, not just once, but keep saying it over and over and over again, then when what we think is going to happen happens, we can go, wait a minute, now there it is. And we can maybe go back and fix it. Over
the weekend on Face the Nation on CBS, one of the big three, a company I used to work for. Yeah, it's the truth.
Hey, don't blow your pension now.
CBS. Yeah, no loss, trust me. But this program had the lawyer for Hunter Biden on, and they asked him about the situation right now, and listen to how he defends Hunter Biden.
Within that plea memorandum that was released, it details a number of Hunter Biden's financial transactions. He was in the throes of addiction. He wasn't able to pay his taxes at that time, but he also had income from a Chinese business conglomerate, an infrastructure investment company, a Ukrainian energy company, a Romanian business. Is there any chance that any of this crossed a line?
If you say crossed the line, here's again what we know. 5 years, thorough investigation, looking at the Chinese, the energy company, the other foreign businesses he did. That was not something that wasn't looked at. Think of it this way. What did this group of prosecutors, who are Republicans appointed by Donald Trump, what did they have as a motive to turn the other way to anything that they found that would have indicated wrongdoing against Hunter Biden? There was none, and that's what's missing in the equation. Mm-hmm. Everybody keeps yelling that this was some sort of deal that was too good. What's not too good, what it's about it is that it reflects the 5-year investigation, and no one has come up with a reason why anybody who was on the prosecution team would have gone easy on Hunter Biden if any of that you just set out had ever been the case.
That's Hunter Biden's lawyer, Abby Lowell, and he's actually he's not helping out the legal profession by looking to the camera with a straight face and lying like this. I mean, he makes it sound like, well, we've had all this investigation and nothing's come of it. Come on. I mean, he doesn't mention Congress. He doesn't mention the hearings and all the evidence they found.
No, it's unchallenged repudiation. No, that never happened. Well, we're not challenging his words, but then again, the media is not going to bring in somebody with a different a counterpoint of view, because that would derail the train of thought that they're trying to convey to you.
Well, I just find it interesting that this guy. And it was interesting to hear her talk about all of the things that he's done wrong. But she says, and he was in the throes of addiction. He was in the throes of addiction.
Crap.
You know, he was a drug addict. He was running around all over the place, taking nude videos of himself with prostitutes and smoking crack. I mean, this guy had no control, no governor on his motor. This guy was just living la vida loca, as they would say, the wild life. And now we're paying for it. He was selling us out like it was a going out of business sale. You know, I mean, Joe Biden, by the way, was the product. Hunter Biden was the conduit. That's all. Hunter Biden was the guy who made the handshake connection with the Chinese and then called his dad. And you know, when they said they called Dad and Dad just said hi, you know, they would call him from a restaurant and they put the phone on speakerphone and he'd say, hi, Dad, I'm here with some friends having dinner. Oh, hi, son, how you doing? They never talked about figures. They never talked about particulars of the deal. But what that phone call said was, I'm here. I'm at the beck and call of my son. He can reach me at a moment's notice. And that's all they needed to see. That's all they needed to see. He had access to the Vice President of the United States at a moment's notice. And, you know,
I think Joe has been a con ever since he was a wee little kid. I think he learned how to manipulate people and turn things on and off. That speech impediment thing that he has, I never heard it in his adult life. Well, I trained myself.
I never heard
I never heard it before. And, now he's got his Democrat friends that he grew up with, but it might be 2 or 3. Oh, no, he did, and he did it. You know what? I call BS, because he was like a star athlete, supposedly, whether he was quarterback or whatever. He was calling plays. Three.
I never heard him do it. I never heard him do it. If he claims he had a speech impediment, but then again, he claims a lot of things. He claims that he was brought up in a Jewish, Irish, Puerto Rican, black neighborhood.
Satanic cult. He lacks saying satanic cult, because if he was in any of those, he has to do that one too.
Hey, listen, the guy has no problem throwing his faith under the bus when it's easy, when it's appropriate for him, when it's going to be advantageous.
He worships himself. That's who he worships.
I got to tell you, I looked at the news this morning, and to see him sitting idly on the beach in Delaware yesterday,
up Hawaii, yeah,
and then you see a picture of Hawaii burning to the ground.
You know what? Let's talk about Hawaii. Let's talk about some things going on in the news. Do you buy that city just incinerated like
Absolutely,
that?
positively not. I know.
Or do you,
Bill, I know it's funny you should say that. I thought of that all weekend long. It's like, what started this? It wasn't a volcano that went off somewhere and set off some sparks. What caused this?
Well, 80-mile-per-hour winds that blew him from a hurricane that might have been a Category 4 that was like 400 miles away, and I'm going like, okay, I can get that, but one spark turned into 1,000 sparks and just poof, the whole town. I think there was an intent to, I don't know.
Hey, listen.
I mean, evil does what evil does.
You know what we've forgotten, Bill?
What?
Those nasty fires up in Canada that smothered the Northeast with smoke.
But, all of those fires that were started, they weren't a fire started in one place that spread out like fires traditionally do. Like you saw the fires out in California, the forest fires that would burn. It wasn't a circle. It was started in one place. A guy threw a cigarette out the window, caught some brush, and then it spread that way, and it was a wall coming. These are all circles.
These look set. If you look at a satellite photo, I've seen some. You can see where they were lit. They seem lit.
Yeah. I mean, but there's a bunch of stuff in the news that they are doing and they're
well, let's talk about the strange stuff in the news, okay, that people are ignoring, I mean, for example, we've talked about this many times before, but there are food processing plants all over the country that have shut down from either fires or for no good reason. They just closed them down. I think they just closed down a bunch of Purdue plants, Purdue Chicken, big processing plants. I think they shut down four.
Tyson shutting down.
Maybe it was Tyson. I could be wrong. It was one of the major chicken processors. Yeah, they closed 4 major processing plants down. For what? For what reason? Why? And if you look back about 6 or 7 months, folks, you'll see, just do a check on food processing plants closed, right? You will see a list of about 100, maybe more, that have closed around the world. A whole bunch of them in the United States. And people aren't talking about it.
Well, it's almost like, I see, a major problem coming here because we don't have the food supply chain that we used to have, but they talk about we do. We're going through our warehouses. Warehouses are burnt down, over 100 of them, I believe. So it's worse than you think. And even since the pandemic, when we didn't have the stuff going to the shelves, all right, what they did in the stores was shrink or expand the aisles and shrink the stores down to where it looks like they're full because, rule number 1, you can't sell anything on an empty shelf. And, plus it's the appearance that you're stocked with all kinds of stuff. So what you're seeing is an illusion. If you think back to how that store used to be and what it is now, you don't have the variety that you used to have. You find yourself walking around in the store looking for that one item you never had a problem finding before, and now it's just not there.
Yeah.
Well, that's all part of this. And then there's health news that's going on out there. They're talking about people that don't get enough sleep anymore. Well, your life expectancy cuts down by 40% if you get less than 6 hours of sleep. It used to be that we were a sleepless society. It just seems that there's so many things and chemicals that are killing us.
Hey, let's go back to the Chinese balloon. The Chinese balloon, that was another thing that never would have happened in the past. I mean, if you had a Chinese balloon meander across the country, it would have been shot down at the border. It never would have got here. But they let it float across the country over sensitive military bases. They didn't do anything until it was out over the Atlantic Ocean again, and then they shot it down.
Well, the one thing I know about this administration and the different power players out there, the Gates and whatnot of the world that sat there and said, we need to get our population down to whatever it was.
550 million.
550 million.
We're a country right now of 330 million, so a lot of people have to die.
Yeah, a lot of people have to die, but that when that got out there, that narrative doesn't work. So what do these guys do? They quietly just go about their business. Well, let's shrink down the supply chain because we're going to find a way that we are the healthiest society in history. And now all of a sudden, you're seeing things crop up again. Joe Biden said he cured cancer, but how many people have you seen die, including Tom Jones at 95 over the weekend? You would think that, all right,
Tom
Jones died at 95. Cancer
the
got
singer?
him. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry to hear that. I learned stuff on this program.
I'm throwing it out there, though. Cancer is getting everybody these days. But Joe Biden cured it, and I do believe there's probably a cure out there for cancer, but right now it is that deadly disease, and we're using they're using anything and everything to get rid of people.
How many people have come across the border with polio, with tuberculosis, that we don't know anything about? How many people are going to reinfect our country with these diseases that we beat a long time ago?
Well, here's another thing for you. In the past couple of weeks, they've been touting a new strain of COVID that's deadly. Now, I can't say for me, but, the lady, that I'm here visiting, Ann, she was doing a real estate thing, and she went into a particular store, I think to get coffee or something for this open house event, a real estate event. But they had put in place their, pandemic COVID protocols.
Amazing. Masks.
Because
put the masks on that don't work.
And what's coming up? Well, we have an election coming up. And what happened during this pandemic? A lot of people died.
Mail-in ballots again, maybe, because people can't get to the voting places?
But the news is out there all over. You can look it up today. Mail not being delivered. All you got to do is say mail not being delivered, and you will see story after story after story after story that the post office now in some cities, they don't deliver on Saturday anymore. It was only one day a week, and that was Sunday and then holidays, but you could never go 3 days without delivering the mail. Hell, now you can. And I was always brought up, you don't have a city, you don't have a country if you don't have mail, and yet we're relying on mail that we are slowing down and throttling because we don't have the manpower. We can't get it all delivered, but yet it's the safest form of voting, and it's quick.
One more thing. In Texas, the LGBTQ organizations,
in Austin?
They are suing. They're suing the state over a law that was put in place prohibiting sexualized performances and drag shows in the presence of a minor. Think about this for a second. We were told initially that drag queens, it wasn't about sex. It was about dancing and dressing up and having a good time. But now this organization, this LGBTQ organization in Texas and drag queens have filed a lawsuit over a state law prohibiting sexualized performances and drag shows in the presence of a minor. They want to be able to dance provocatively, sexually in front of your kids.
Well, Texas used to be a Democratic state, it went Republican. And it's been a really solid red state, but I see it going back Democrat because you got all these woke Californians. They destroyed that state, and now they're looking for another place to destroy. You see liberals out there going, the biggest states and the most popular states are blue states. Yeah, why is everybody moving out? Because they used to be conservative states, but you went in and destroyed it. But
it seems like we're working hard. There's an element in our world that's working hard to destroy the family nucleus, the family. They're trying to destroy the morals that were the backbone of our country. They're trying to make it so that the abnormal is normal. Make it so that we are all screwed up in this country. Go ahead.
How would you feel if you were a conservative in Austin, Texas, and you just found out that the schools gladly, free-handedly bused children to a gay pride parade?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Look, marching and, saying I'm gay and proud of it and carrying the flag, and please don't take that one little snippet and use that against me. But I'm just saying, you can go and do your parade, but those parades are usually so much more flashing of genitalia. Yeah, and
look at remember Seattle, the Pride Parade in Seattle this year? Men were dancing naked. They were going down the street absolutely naked. I mean,
started in San Francisco, but that's where a lot of this stuff started. And in the bathhouses and stuff like that, and all the weird perverted stuff, it's filtered out. Now it's all over the.
I mean,
it's like
Seattle. That's kind of. I find that amazing. That they would have done that in Seattle. Yeah, they did it in San Francisco. Wouldn't shock me as much. Maybe I'm kind of used to that. In Seattle, in San Francisco. But anyway, hey,
go ahead.
I was just going to say we're run out of time. I just looked at the clock on the wall. We could talk forever, you and I. But
yeah, we could. I was going to say something on that, but I'll
go ahead.
No.
Hey,
I was just going to say, do you remember? Do you remember the stuff that was back in the 70s? It was a weed that infected trees, and you'd see it along the roadside. Kudzu, I believe it was, and they couldn't kill it or anything, and it just moved across the land and infested all the trees and got into the power poles and the power lines and everything. Maybe you don't remember it.
No,
maybe
I don't.
You do.
But I believe that they have stuff like that.
Yeah, and it started out small and it just spread and festered. Well, that's kind of how I'm looking at this the gay pride. No, but the transgenderism, these parades and showing the genitalia and the sex acts and all that. That's a disease.
I have friends. I'm sure you do too, who are gay, and they're put off by this. Okay, yeah. They're put off by this. This is not how they want to be presented. They want to be presented as being normal. That's what they want. Yeah. They don't want to be made to be these. Well, we could go on and on. I could. Yeah.
Three things we should mention. Biden papers, he's up for indictment. That's looks like it's coming. They've been filed. So you got that. You won't hear about it in the news. There's a new pronoun. It's called neopronouns. What is that? Well, it's kind of like, remember a couple of weeks ago I said I'm a stay gender? Mm-hmm. It's now a word that you can create to serve as a pronoun without expressing your gender, like Z or Zer. So, and they had to explain this on CNN, but now that's out there. And I guess the big news is, will Zuckerberg take the Elon Musk challenge for the backyard brawl in Zuckerberg's backyard to fight him today?
I don't know.
And will the world end tomorrow? I don't know.
That is real smoke in a world of fire. hey, listen. If you want to reach us, our number is 833-538-7868, 833-538-7868.
Mail at itsanotherday.com. Mail at itsanotherday.com. Either way, get in touch with us. We'd appreciate that.
And if you want to hear Bill Knight say, what do you usually say? Vaya con Dios, caballeros? No, you say, hasta la vista, baby, we're out of here. If you want to hear that, then Listen up.
You got to tune into the podcast because there's one place and one place only that you will ever hear. Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
The voice of freedom, CRN America. These days, when you want an answer about just about anything, you ask Alexa. You ask her about the weather. You ask her who won your favorite sporting event. You ask her to find a fact that you can't find anywhere. Well, we did that too. We asked her how many people have downloaded it'sanotherday.com. And this is what she said.
From acceleration.com. It has been downloaded as much as 260,433,467 times.
I know. Seems like a lot. Seems like a lot to us, too. But it's Alexa. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And tell your friends about it'sanotherday.com. We could use an extra listener. I mean, what do you do when you only have 260 million?